Muito boa noite, bem-vindos à sessão de encerramento do segundo SILSEM. O meu nome é Marisa Quaresma, do Instituto de Educação da Universidade de Lisboa e, em primeiro lugar, eu quero agradecer à organização, à comissão organizadora por todo este evento, pelo SILSEM, que tem sido um evento muitíssimo interessante, onde nós fizemos muitas aprendizagens ao longo destes 3 dias muito preenchidos, com conferências, mesas redondas, muito trabalho, muitas comunicações, um trabalho muitíssimo rico sobre o Lesson Study em muitos países à volta do mundo. Nós, nesta conferência, temos como convidado o professor Masami Isoda, que, entretanto, ainda não chegou, ainda não entrou no estúdio, e nós vamos aproveitar esta fase inicial, então, para fazer um balanço, uma síntese daquilo que foram estes 3 dias. Para isso, vamos contar aqui com o apoio da nossa querida professora Yuriko, que esteve ao longo de todos estes dias com uma participação muitíssimo ativa nas várias sessões e que nos vai ajudar aqui a fazer uma síntese do trabalho desenvolvido, da professora Alushka Dias também, que também acompanhou todos os trabalhos ao longo destes dias, e ainda creio que a professora Adriana Richit poderá acompanhar-nos também neste balanço final. Podemos então avançar para esta síntese. Professora Yuriko, por favor.
Muito boa noite. Desculpe entrar assim no conferência de fechamento. Nós estamos um pouco desapontados, deve ter havido algum problema técnico com o professor Isoda, que não está conseguindo entrar. Eu estava em contato, quer dizer, tentando entrar em contato com ele por e-mail e outros contatos. Mas, enquanto isso, nós, a Marisa, eu, a Luzca e o Jorge, decidimos que poderíamos ir fazendo uma síntese para terminar, para um resumo, pelo menos daquelas atividades que todos nós participamos, para dizer, para mostrar o sucesso que foi a SILSEM. Né? É uma pena que nós estamos aguardando ainda o professor Isoda se ele conseguir entrar, mas nós achamos que nós devemos, para a audiência e para o fechamento do seminário, uma conversa bem entre amigos, inclusive para preparar, para ter uma esperança para o futuro. Como que nós podemos disseminar a Lesson Study, tendo tantos representantes em diversas regiões do país, né? Nós percebemos hoje que só está faltando região norte. E na região norte, eu já tenho contatos de grupos de Lesson Study, que tem os grupos de estudo de pesquisa na região amazônica, na região do Pará. Então, eu acredito que brevemente nós estaremos com vários centros de Lesson Study pelo Brasil e, quem sabe, a união faz a força, nós podemos disseminar essa metodologia, valorizando a pesquisa no contexto local do Brasil, certo? Com todos os nossos esforços e fazer o bem para a nossa educação. É essa a ideia de fazermos essa síntese. Desta vez, se me permite falar, né, fazer uma síntese a partir do primeiro SILSEM. No primeiro SILSEM, por iniciativa da Regina, do Dario, nós fizemos um seminário em que nós conseguimos trazer, então, o professor Isoda, né, a quem eu devo a formação em Lesson Study, a verdadeira Lesson Study, de vivenciar a Lesson Study no Japão, e conhecer também todos os colegas do Sudeste Asiático e depois também de outras regiões que estavam adotando a Lesson Study. Eu aprendi demais, sendo professora visitante, como pesquisadora visitante na Universidade de Tsukuba. Então, eu tive, assim, aumentei muito o conhecimento sobre a Lesson Study graças à generosidade do professor Isoda, que me convidou para participar desses eventos organizados no Japão. E também eu consegui trazer os colaboradores que eu já tinha transfronteira, né? Além da fronteira, com o pessoal do Chile, né? A Soledad Estrela, a Raimundo Ofas, que trouxeram contribuições valiosas para enriquecer o primeiro SILSEM. Nós fizemos as anais do primeiro SILSEM, já mostrou a riqueza de contribuições que os nossos colegas brasileiros podiam oferecer. Então, houve posters, houve comunicações científicas, e nós publicamos os anais pela Instituto Federal do Espírito Santo, pela colaboradora e parceira, a nossa amiga, a Maria Alice, né, que está conosco na organização do segundo SILSEM. Então, assim, nós temos uma rede de colaborações, e surgiu a ideia, foi tão certo o primeiro SILSEM, que a gente já sonhou no segundo SILSEM. Aí, no segundo seminário, aí já veio a Adriana. A Adriana ofereceu todas as facilidades da Universidade da Fronteira do Sul, e foi caiu do céu, é uma mão na roda mesmo, né? Então, assim, nós conseguimos trazer mais e mais colaboradores, e gradativamente o pessoal começou a verificar a possibilidade de realmente entender a linguagem do Lesson Study. Que fala Lesson Study parece uma palavra em inglês. Eu uso a palavra pesquisa de aula. O professor João Pedro da Ponte usa estudo de aula. Os chilenos usam estúdio de classes, certo? Mas, assim, existe uma certa, assim, os princípios que de Lesson Study, que realmente é pesquisa do professor. Tornar o professor da sala de aula o investigador da sua pesquisa. Valorizar o trabalho do professor na pesquisa de melhorar a aprendizagem dos alunos. Isso é uma coisa comum que permeia todas as iniciativas do tipo estudo de classe, né? De Lesson Study. Então, dessa vez, nós conseguimos trazer uma comunidade bem maior de pessoas que se interessam, porque todos aqueles que valorizam o seu trabalho, o desenvolvimento profissional do professor, que é a aprendizagem para toda a vida, né? Que a carreira do professor é aquele que a aprendizagem não para nunca. Cada dia é uma aprendizagem nova, é uma aprendizagem a mais que acrescenta a sua vivência e para poder compartilhar com os outros. Então, eu acho que esse segundo SILSEM foi maravilhoso no sentido de ter tantas mesas redondas, os painéis, que trouxe as colaborações das pessoas que estão batalhando nesse tópico, nesse tema, que é exatamente o que significa Lesson Study no ensino de matemática. Então, nós temos representantes da Europa, da Ásia, da América do Sul e dentro do Brasil. Então, eu fico, assim, muito orgulhosa de que o esforço que eu comecei a fazer 15 anos atrás, de tentar trazer a Lesson Study, começando devagarinho, pequenininho, convencendo e tendo a colaboração dos meus alunos de pós-graduação. E depois a compreensão da Secretaria de Educação, que ofereceu uma diretoria regional do Estado de São Paulo, é uma secretaria regional, por meio de seus dirigentes e seus coordenadores pedagógicos, para abraçar a longo termo, formar um grupo de estudos que nós começamos realmente, pelo menos no estado de São Paulo, firmar ao pé mesmo, como um projeto de Lesson Study. Não é apenas um ciclo de Lesson Study. Um ciclo está aí apenas um processo. Sabe aquele equívoco que os professores fazem muitas vezes? Que na sala de aula ensina um método, ensina um algoritmo e pensa que está ensinando matemática. Ensinando técnica de matemática não significa ensinar a pensar matematicamente. Ensinar a falar, compreender o que significa fazer atividade matemática. E isso é um projeto a longo termo. Hoje ficou muito claro o esforço que a Tailândia fez, começando com 4 escolas, depois aumentando para 23 escolas, conseguindo o apoio do Ministério da Educação, conseguindo gradativamente os financiamentos de outros canais governamentais. E hoje em dia a Tailândia consegue ajudar o país vizinho, a Camboja, Laos. Então, eles estão mostrando o esforço, a resiliência de 30 anos. Eles fizeram um projeto visando 30 anos. No Brasil, infelizmente, parece que cada 5, 6 anos parece que muda tudo, parece que está começando tudo de novo, e mesmo assim nós estamos aqui. Depois de mais de 20 anos do PCN, demorou para chegar, chegou a BNCC. E agora nós temos a BN Formação. Nós temos os documentos oficiais na mão para a gente poder ter a nossa influência como classe de educadores e como classe de professores, de mostrar que através do Lesson Study, nós também podemos contribuir para colocar a BNCC, a BN Formação, em exercício, na prática, implementado, tá certo? É como o professor Dario fala, tem o currículo que a gente imagina e aquele currículo que a gente precisa implementar. Então, como preencher o gap, né? A sobreposição entre isso? Dessa realidade contextual e social é um desafio para cada um de nós. Então, tendo núcleos de Lesson Study no Nordeste, por exemplo, a Lusca com seu grupo, no Norte com o pessoal do Pará, do Ceará, no Centro-Oeste com a Regina, na Universidade de Brasília, o pessoal de Goiás, no Sudeste, que nós temos mais grupos, tá certo? E no Sul, com a força de Santa Catarina e a maior força no Rio Grande do Sul, com a Adriana e os outros que estão adotando a Lesson Study nos seus programas de pós-graduação, nós temos um futuro para construir. É isso que eu queria falar com vocês e conversar. Isso aqui é uma roda, eu não estou fazendo a palestra, estou querendo fazer um resumo do sucesso que foi o primeiro SILSEM, que permitiu o segundo SILSEM, e agora nós temos a tarefa de construir o terceiro SILSEM. Então, nós estamos esperando candidaturas para fazer o terceiro SILSEM, quem sabe com mais participantes do que os 1.000 candidatos, 1.500 inscritos que nós tivemos até agora, não é? É isso. Vamos conversar. Desculpe se eu falo muito, viu? Que o entusiasmo e começo a falar.
Muitíssimo obrigada, professora Eurico. Na verdade, podíamos ficar aqui muito tempo a ouvi-la, maravilhados com aquilo que tem para nos ensinar e para esta perspectiva que tem até de todo o país, que é de facto muito, muito interessante. Muito obrigada, professora Eurico. Temos aqui também agora o professor Dario Fiorentini para nos dar algumas palavras neste encerramento também, para fazer um balanço. Muito obrigada, professor Dario.
Boa noite, né? É uma pena que o professor Isoda não pôde participar, né? Mas queria dizer algumas palavras, principalmente cumprimentar a Adriana Richt, que coordenou esse evento, e a Regina, que deu o maior suporte, como sempre, né, para a realização desse evento, que foi a pioneira que teve a ideia de promover esse tipo de seminário, né, um seminário internacional de Lesson Study, voltado ao ensino da matemática e à formação de professores de matemática. E, sem dúvida, né, o primeiro já foi um sucesso, e este reafirmou, acho que está se consolidando, mais de 1.600 participantes inscritos, né, com vários trabalhos muito bons apresentados, com boas discussões, pelo que eu pude participar de algumas comunicações que foram excelentes. Então, eu acho que nós já temos uma comunidade latino-americana de pesquisadores em educação matemática que tem o Lesson Study como um processo, né, relevante de formação e aprendizagem docente e também de melhoria do ensino e do currículo escolar, né? Eu acho que o Lesson Study cria essa possibilidade de se promover uma transformação do currículo escolar a partir da própria escola, da própria prática dos professores, mais ou menos como acontece no Japão, né? O Japão, eu acho que tem recebido contribuições importantes dos próprios professores que utilizam uma prática reflexiva, investigativa, a partir do Lesson Study, contribuem para uma transformação do currículo escolar numa perspectiva invertida daquilo que tem sido tradicionalmente, sempre esperando vir de cima, né? E agora nós temos aqui essa possibilidade do Lesson Study se constituir num processo não top-down, mas também bottom-up, que é uma forma mais de interlocução entre universidade e escola, né, com trabalho colaborativo no estudo das aulas, como nós temos algumas experiências aqui relatadas nesse sentido, e me parece que se acena como uma possibilidade muito grande, né, de revolucionar a escola. Fala-se que tem tantas pesquisas, tem sido pesquisado tanto o ensino da matemática, mas a prática escolar não se transforma. É claro que se os professores não tiverem uma prática reflexiva, investigativa, e também as instituições públicas e as políticas públicas não derem, como dá, por exemplo, no Japão, condições para que o professor assuma o planejamento das aulas, a avaliação e a reflexão sobre as aulas, como parte do trabalho dele, e não como trabalho extra-classe, no próprio horário que ele tem de ensinar na escola, esse tempo reservado para fazer um bom planejamento, fazer reflexões e sistematizar essa experiência, né? Então, eu vejo no Lesson Study essa possibilidade, né, adaptada às nossas realidades, né? Como bem aí já destacou a Yuriko, né, e o Isoda, que tem falado e destacado esse aspecto, né, porque nós não temos ainda no Brasil uma estrutura que facilite uma cultura colaborativa, um trabalho coletivo dos professores. Essa estrutura, ela favorece o isolamento, um trabalho isolado de cada professor cuidar da sua própria prática. Nem na escola ele consegue conversar com outro professor, como ele faz, como ele desenvolve, como poderia desenvolver melhor o ensino. Os HTPCs não têm sido muito bem utilizados nesse sentido, né? E se promover, eu vejo com bons olhos, porque algumas secretarias de educação já estão mobilizando-se nesse sentido, em apoiar iniciativas, né, nos próprios municípios, para que os professores possam organizar seu tempo, né? Sobral, por exemplo, tem, onde a Madeline fez a pesquisa dela, os professores têm um dia da semana destinado à preparação de aulas, ao estudo das aulas, à discussão das aulas, pelo menos uma semana, dentro da semana, um dia reservado para isso, e os outros professores podem cobrir esse tempo, né? Então, eu vejo aí uma possibilidade, né, de revolucionar o próprio ensino nas escolas, né, não só da matemática, mas de todas as áreas, né? Oi, Isoda entrou agora aí, que bom.
É verdade. Muito obrigada, professor Dario. Muito obrigada pelo seu resumo da conferência e da importância do estudo de aula no Brasil e no mundo, na verdade, não é? Muitíssimo obrigada. So, welcome, Professor Masami Isoda. My name is Marisa Quaresma from Institute of Education, University of Lisbon, and I'm very honored to be here facilitating the conference of Professor Masami Isoda. Professor Masami Isoda is Professor of Mathematics Education in the Faculty of Human Sciences and Director of the Center for Research on International Cooperation in Educational Development in the University of Tsukuba in a lovely country called Japan. Professor Masami Isoda contributes to research in the field of mathematics education, especially in the areas of lesson study and curriculum. He has authored and co-authored several papers on Japanese lesson study in mathematics, always working internationally and nationally for innovation of mathematics education. Is a project overseer of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Lesson Study Project since 2006, and honorary professor in universities in Peru and Thailand. Professor Masami Isoda is a wonderful path and will give us an update and talk about the future challenges of lesson study. So now you can start, Professor Masami Isoda, you can start your presentation, please.
Thank you very much. Just wait for a while. And thank you very much for introducing me, Dr. Marisa Quaresma. Thank you very much. And just wait.
You're
I
welcome.
will open my slide. Just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is okay. Can you see my slide?
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
No, you are sharing your screen.
I shared my window.
But I'm seeing the StreamYard, this page, this internet page.
The selection is wrong. Sorry. So I shared my whole screen. Maybe is it okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Just press the presentation mode, please.
Yes.
Yes, perfect now.
Thank you very much. Today, I would like to talk. Let's elaborate and extract what shall we challenge for the next lesson study. And from the perspective of the product of lesson study for teachers. And innovate. And I want to focus on innovative teaching approaches and the development of task and task sequence for curriculum and textbook, and serialization by and for teachers. And first of all, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Yoriko Yamamoto Baldin and other speakers. And actually, this conference focuses on initiation of lesson study. Many presentations and lectures, keynote, and panel are related with the initiation of lesson study and shared several current significant achievements. And I learned a lot, so many significant achievements by the several speakers. And thank you very much. And at first, I just want to mention the first keynote speaker, Dr. Catherine Lewis. And using school-wide lesson study, several United States elementary schools have dramatically changed student experience and learning of mathematics, eliminating the achievement gaps. And actually, this is a keynote by the Dr. Catherine Lewis at the year 2006 on an APEC lesson study project. I and Dr. Maitri Imprasita have been working on this project as a organizers of the project, and many leading researchers have been participating and we learned a lot. And the reason why I discuss about Dr. Catherine Lewis is that this lecture was around 15 years ago's her achievement. In the teacher training program, she said, on her teacher training program, she said, a US teacher said, before lesson study, we had a talk about multiple intelligence, constructivism, and so on, but never talk about the content of teaching. In the lesson study project, we began to talk about the subject matter, why we teach it, how we teach it, and what students learned from the lesson. And when I heard her lecture, Japanese people realized how the difference of the teacher training program, depending on the country. And at the same time, we also learned that, yes, we are talking about the content of teaching every day. And we realized that the lesson study, Japanese lesson study inside of Japan, we are not sure what it is, but through the lecture of the Catherine Lewis and other speakers, we relearned that we are talking about the content of teaching. And another message from the Dr. Catherine is that a US teacher said, I developed the eyes teacher's perspective to look at the students and subject matter, 子供を見る目, the way to see the children. Now I am well aware of my responsibility for my lesson. In the lesson study with other teachers, I prefer the more challenging lessons, such as with open-ended problems. When I found that students can challenge such difficult problems, I recognize self-confidence in my lesson. Yes, actually this is Japanese teacher's mindset, challenges. And open-ended problem she mentioned here is that later on this lecture, she explained teaching through problem solving. So there are I think there are something changed through those 15 years. And thank you very much, Catherine. And so many speakers discussed significant achievement. Thank you very much. And then I just flashback the APEC lesson study project. And it began since year 2006, and more than 15 years we have been engaged. And we set every year set the same of lesson study, and challenged in lesson study in each economy. APEC means Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation. And this is a project under the APEC. And in year 2008, third year, we asked the specialists from each economy, 21 economy we have, and this time 60 economy participated. And APEC, the significance of APEC lesson study project, and useful for improvement of the quality of mathematics education. Oh yes, good. And influential to other subject, 93%. What does it mean? If we engaged in the lesson study in mathematics class, it's very much influential to the other subject, specialist said. And used for developing innovative teaching approaches, 93%. used for curriculum improvement 80%, used for sharing model teaching approaches 80%, used for developing teachers 80%. And what is strange for me is used for developing student 80%. So at the third year, specialists are still not clear the meaning of the lesson study. Normally, lesson study is done for the developing student. And of course, from the perspective of learning community, we are used for the developing teachers. So 80% means still struggling. And what is lower percentage is that used for developing practical local theories of mathematics education, 53%. So, how do you say, lesson studies is a kind of activities, however, not related with the theorization of practice itself. So, this is a point what we want to discuss today. And what shall we produce through lesson study? Student agency, developing students who learn mathematics by and for themselves. This is the Japanese tradition of Professor Shimizu. He passed away and he initiated under the Dr. Yuriko Yamamoto, he initiated the lesson study activities in Brazil more than 15 years ago. And this idea developing students who learn mathematics by and for themselves was the policy of national curriculum, and Professor Shimizu established. Shimizu, we have several Shimizu. The panelist Shimizu is the current president of Japan Society of Mathematics Education, and the passed away Shimizu was also the former president of Japan Society of Mathematical Education. And this message, developing students who learn mathematics by and for themselves, are set by the passed away the Shimizu. And he was a great man. And when we discuss the lesson study, there are several perspectives depending on the speakers. Basically, but we can divide into two: teachers who are working for students, researchers or trainers, or principals who are working for teachers. Depending on the position, the meaning of the lesson study is different. And on your audience, in the case of audience, every audience has your own perspective, and you can fill in this space, these spaces. And in my presentation, I would like to focus on support teachers to develop task and task sequence based on the clear objective. Enjoyable teacher training to enrich content and curriculum knowledge. Terminology which explains the conceptual differences. Terminology which makes clear the invariant ways of thinking. And support teachers to plan the lesson, such as teaching through problem solving. And there are several ideas already discussed in these conferences. I would like to explain some Japanese perspective. Okay. At first, I would like to confirm various teaching approaches existed for teaching mathematics, and how different and why we prefer it. Of course, the teaching approaches is various. There are various meaning of teaching approach itself. Okay, so the method of, when we say method of teaching, it can be preferable depending on the objective. And the injection approach is that if teacher-centered approach, if we do not know where to design task and lesson for student, it is only preferable, actually. And there are some discussions for that if the student-centered approach, open approach is usually the one of the good way. And Dr. Maitri implicita discussed the open approaches and the influence to the regions. And the problem-solving approach, this is the Japanese translation, and if I use the other way, if I say another word, it is teaching through problem solving. And the major difference between open approach and problem solving approach is that in the case of open approach, usually focus on a task. On the other hand, problem solving approach or teaching through problem solving usually consider the task sequence. This is a major difference. Because problem-solving approach and open approach, both of them focus on what the student already learned before. And by using what the student already learned before, we plan the teaching up. We use the teaching approach, and the problem-solving approach. In the case of teaching through problem-solving, task sequence is much clearer. That is a major difference. And the dialectic approach is that the dialectic mainly focus on more student-centered, and it's related with overcoming contradiction. As I will explain later, nature of mathematics curriculum, there are a huge number of contradictions. It is the major source of misconception. Okay, and from the objective-oriented, from the perspective objective, injection approach is usually exam-oriented, and other approaches more concentrate on authentic mathematical activity oriented. And student agency, in general meaning of student agency, if we are not the specialist of mathematics education, even injection approach, we believe that the student agency can develop. And on the other hand, open approach enjoy mathematical thinking with various answers. And problem-solving approach more enhance mathematical value and attitude. Pose the question, student pose the question. And the dialectic approach discuss critical discussion. Okay. And in any case, depending on the objective, we choose the method of teaching. On this background, I just want to go back to the history of Japanese mathematics education in relation to the lesson study. Our elementary school means that the University of Tsukuba, the elementary school, we are originally the normal school at the first normal school in Japan, and the first elementary school is our elementary affiliate school. And that school teachers originated lesson study, and the Pestalozzi method and dialectic like Zen style Q&A method were the same at that era. And in 1883, there is a book published, The Reform of the Method of Teaching. On that book, the format of lesson studies is written, and it is the same as today. Okay, how can we produce the lesson, such a discussion, until critical discussion after the lesson, such a manners are already written in 1883. And however, it is not easy to spread, but it spent the time, and 1910s student approach, such as problem posing approach by students, were proposed. Of course, there are many teachers engaged. However, on the publications, 1910s are well known. And this is the activity of the problem posing. Okay, teachers show the explaining, talking. On the other hand, every student has use the chalkboard and pose the questions around the classroom, and they discuss which problem shall we solve, which one's problem shall we solve, which order is good. Such a thing is already discussed 1910s. And in 1930s, the difficult challenges of this lesson style is that the textbooks are not revised. During 40 years, Japanese textbook was almost the same, no revision. So such a long time, no revision, teachers try to develop the ways of teaching, more active ways of teaching. And then 1930s, result of lesson study by the elementary school at the Tokyo Higher Normal School, it was a currently University of Tsukuba, embedded into elementary school textbook. So lesson study result go into the textbook. Okay, could you read? Okay, did you read? The question is that your classroom and the science room, which one is the larger? Classroom is 7 meter multiplied by 9 meter, and the science room 8 meter multiplied by 8 meter. And there is suggestion, let's draw on your notebook when you suppose 1 meter as 1 centimeter and compare. Okay. The question is, why it is this number? You have answer? And in the textbook, they compared directly, direct comparison. And for teaching the unit, or for producing the unit, direct comparison, indirect comparison, arbitrary unit, and standard unit. Such a this process already began to discuss at this era. And why it's overlapped? Okay, this is the current textbook. Did you read? In Japan, we don't say the same things again and again and again. Okay, you read. Thank you very much. So this is through the direct comparison, we find the remainder, and the remaining part is 1. The length is the 1. become the square. To find the square, we use this number. The difference is only 1, right? Okay? So such as ideas are already existed in this textbook. And such a Japanese textbook are currently used by the other country, it is owner, and this is the case of the Chilean edition. So 1930s textbook, task was already written as an open question. And the task sequence is also fine if we read carefully, however, not so much clear for all teachers because of limitation of the space. The size of the paper is expensive, so the size of the textbooks are very much small at that time. Okay, and the 1930s result of lesson study embedded into elementary school, it is the same, and the 6th grade. Okay, you read. For 6th grade, some of you may say, oh, it looks difficult. But does it really difficult? For solving what diagram you would like to draw? Actually, Catherine's lectures, she discussed the visible ways. Okay, how can we visualize? You imagined already? And task 2, how can we change the border simpler? Okay, there are gnomon shape, 2 gnomon shape, or gnomon shape. Okay, simpler means 2 rectangular. If you see this task sequence, you can imagine what kind of diagram we should draw task 1. Okay, and then why task 2 is given after task 1? There are some significant discussion maybe. Task 1 is not easy actually, but the task 2 is more easier, right? And if we see task 2, solve task 2, then task 1 is more, how do you say, easier to draw the diagram. So task 1, task 2, which one should we use at first? Such a discussion. But more challenging is task 1. Okay? And task 3, what do you want to do to explore? Wow. What do you want to explore? Open question. And we can set, depending on the previous task. What we learned is not only limited to the how to operate, how to apply. Okay? The ways of learning itself, ways of thinking itself can apply on this task sequence. And actually, this kind of way, this way of reading is not easy for teachers, but this task sequence show implicate that the how do you say, that it's already have some significant lesson study already done. And based on that, this task sequence are established. Okay? And there is a figural representation and discussion of the situations and so on. And the last questions are asking, problem posing by student. What did you prepare for student? Based on what we learned before, we can discuss. So this is a middle school textbook. Okay, why this task sequence? And task 1 is that by the motor rotating, this circle rotating, and if it's rotate, finally it's move this direction. This is a printing machine, a kind of printing machine. And what is it? Okay, rotating means that the center and radius. Oh, this is the center and radius. This is the center and radius. Okay, the same mechanism, right? How about for and example 1? Okay, there is a slider, point C move. Okay, and actually, if we saw this window from this side, it can be seen like this. Okay, so the task was already open question, and the task sequence become more clearer. In the case of this textbook, not so much, not a lot of, how do you say, the pages for the learning the calculation and getting the calculation skills and so on. Not so many pages. Mainly those things are written. On that reason, task sequence become more clearer. And this is a kind of modeling from the situation, finding the mathematical structure. And then from the mathematical structure, it is a mechanism, but they interpret the concrete situation. Such a process, modeling process, from the current perspective. And it is a principle of mathematization. On this textbook, it's explained this kind of thing is a principle of mathematization. And from the perspective of crime movement, it is a geometry and algebra, both sides, we produce the calculus. Such a curriculum sequence. Based on such a curriculum sequence, this kind of discussions are included. And this kind of discussions are continued to the junior secondary school at Tokyo University of Education. It is also the name changed. It is also the University of Tsukuba. And in the case of new math, in Japan, there are two big movements. One is pure math oriented, and another one is do math oriented. And the junior secondary school, of our junior secondary school oriented to the doing math. And they publish several teachers' guidebooks, and this is a task from the book of 70. Can you imagine my question? Okay, my question is, what is the objective of this task? Okay, the objective of this task is knowing the or learning the sufficient and necessity conditions to fix the point on the plane, on the figure. It is related with logical thinking, and it is related with construction, geometric construction. Okay. What task sequence this task can be used, can become more useful and significant. Depending on the objective, the meaning of task change. And depending on the objective, we renovate the task itself. And the book of 82 can you find the differences? What changed? The book, guidebook on 70s, is only discussed inside. On the other hand, there are no circle, only square, and inside and outside. Why? Okay. Solution for one is like this, and the final conclusion through the discussion is that we introduce the coordinate, including the negative. Okay. So now the objective of the task itself changed. This is really related with the discussion of the crime movement. How can we connect algebra and geometry? Algebraic reasoning and geometric reasoning. So on such idea, these tasks are renovated. Okay. So now I will go back. What is the theory? Okay. Of course, as a researcher, theory means written in journals, and several framework was existed. On the other hand, here we discuss practical or local theories of mathematics education for teachers. Okay, here practical or local theories support teachers to develop task and task sequence based on clear objective. Depending on the objective, it changes. For example, enjoyable teacher training to enrich content and curriculum knowledge. Okay. In my experience, I supported to develop ASEAN curriculum framework. It is CMEO is international organization of the ASEAN, Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Organization, and with collaboration of the CMEO Science and Mathematics Education Center, we developed learning standard. It is not the compulsory because every country has its own curriculum, but it is a guidebook for teachers and curriculum developers. And we developed this through the discussion of the representative of the every country as a curriculum specialist. And with Kim Hon and Dr. Maitri and others, we also developed mathematics challenges for classroom practice. This is a task, several tasks for teachers' development, to enrich content knowledge in curriculum. So this kind of things, curriculum itself are local theory, but it shows other perspectives. The curriculum document is usually written in simple. If we may have the other perspective, we can interpret our own national curriculum from the other perspective, national or state's curriculum. And this task, trying to develop challenges are developed for the enjoyably, but not hopefully. Okay. And then terminology which explains the conceptual differences. As I mentioned previously, dialectic are related with contradiction. Okay. Actually, any mathematics curriculum, school curriculum include some contradiction, several contradictions. And for example, at the beginning of the case of multiplication, this is a book with Dr. Raymond Olfos, University, Valparaiso Catholic University in Chile. Meaning A, okay, accumulation. But accumulation may be useful until to develop multiplication table. After that, we use multiplication table by using the distribution. We develop the new manner of to find the answer, and then we establish column multiplication. Column multiplication is not repeated addition. Okay? And we extend it to the decimals. Decimal is this repeated addition. What is a 0.3 means? Oh, it is 0.3 multiplied by 2. Okay? So such a way, finally, we don't need the division. It is reciprocal number of multiplication. And it is a field theory. We go to the field theory. And so on these processes, there are several contradictions students made. And such a contradictions are related with some technical term. Here the accumulation, here distribution, and so on. Okay. And thirdly, terminology which make clear the invariant ways of thinking. There are two types of terminology to explain the content. One is conceptual differences, conceptual changes, and another one is that invariant, consistently we can use. We can use, however, not student use, okay? Generalization and specialization, for example. Okay, generalization and specialization. Beautifulness, okay? How can we discuss beautifulness in the classroom? If we say, aha, it includes something, this kind of meaning. So anyway, content can acquire, but we need the reflection for learning the mathematical thinking and processes. And we also need the appreciation for the value of the ways of thinking. And this kind
Please,
of things,
Professor Masami Isoda, 5 minutes to finish, please.
okay, thank you. Now we are finished soon, okay? For example, the task sequence itself has some moment of reflection, and the time moment for appreciation for what we learned. Okay, this is the same. So task sequence provide the acquisition and reflect the moment of reflections and appreciations. Okay, now the last part. What is the practical or local theories of mathematics education? Support teachers to plan the lessons, such as teaching through problem solving. And one of the keywords is task is given by teacher and problematic coming from student. Okay, task is usually given by teachers. However, if the task sequence is well established, student can use something. However, if the task is nearly new things, they have to have some challenges by using what the student already learned. So such as things are given on this idea, and this is a board writing plan. Such ideas are embedded on this board writing plan. This kind of things are teacher the theory, practical theory, and the checklist. And in my lesson study project, this checking list is developed by not me, by teachers. And teacher already knew several practical theories, and then, for example, task is given by teacher and problematic coming from student, such as things, self-evaluation. Okay, we ask the teachers. And then before the lesson study, school-based lesson study, most of the teachers do not know what it is. However, after 5.5 years, most of them understand. Then the achievement changed tremendously, and especially it influenced the other subject. Lesson study in mathematics consider the ways of teaching and develop the eyes to see the student and plan the class through that. Other subjects, such as Japanese language and so on, it's improved a lot. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Masami Isoda, for your inspiring conference. It was wonderful. Thank you very much. So now we are open to questions from the audience. We have one already. In initial training for future teachers, do future teachers participate in lesson study sessions? If in Japan, usually. If yes, how do they happen? Do they teach classes or just observe? Can you?
In Japan, from before the internship program, micro teaching and so on, we do in our class. And on the internship program, Japanese internship program is only 3 weeks. However, preparation session and after they go coming back, they have the notebook of the internship. They produce a notebook, and then we reflect on and discuss. And mainly, the point of discussion is that why we teach, what we wanna teach, what the student we wanna develop. Such a value we more focus on. And at the government official program of the in-service teachers, first year of the new teachers and the 10th years, they have to have obligation to do lesson study and so on. And anyway, it is a culture. Until Catherine and other researchers saying it is significant, it is just a custom. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Masami Isoda. Just a second, please. Professor Yuriko, tem o micro desligado. Por favor. A professora Yuriko vai traduzir para
I will translate very quickly your answer, Professor Isoda, to get faster. Então, me permite, Marisa, de resumir rapidinho o que o professor falou, respondeu para aquela pergunta que é muito importante. Nos cursos de preparação, dentro do curso de licenciatura, eles fazem alguns treinamentos de o que eles chamam de microaulas. Mas não é assim, eles fazem preparação de lições, essas coisas assim, dentro do curso deles. Mas, no programa de estágio supervisionado, que eles vão para a escola de fato, o estágio no Japão, para os cursos de licenciatura, dura apenas 3 semanas. Mas para fazer essas 3 semanas de estágio supervisionado, com os alunos indo na escola, antes tem toda aquela pesquisa e a preparação daquela sequência de tarefas, tudo, para eles irem, durante aquelas 3 semanas, executar, observar e produzir relatórios. Depois de voltarem, que não vão mais para a escola, eles fazem um intenso trabalho de análise sobre a aula. E não é para a descrição da aula. O foco da análise é o que foi feito, por que o objetivo daquela sequência de tarefas, certo? E como isso produziu a aprendizagem dos alunos. Então, o foco da observação e a crítica e a reflexão crítica é bastante forte na preparação de lesson study dos alunos da licenciatura. E depois, quando eles começam a carreira, no primeiro ano é obrigatório fazer a lesson study, toda a sequência, e no 10º ano, quando é professor experiente, também é obrigatório fazer a lesson study como sendo uma obrigação para fazer do começo ao final, para treinar esse amadurecimento de pensamento crítico sobre o conteúdo a ensinar e a sequência de tarefas. É isso. Podem me tirar, Jorge.
Thank you very much, Professor Yuriko. So now we have another question from myself. Nowadays, or today, do lesson study projects continue to be integrated into textbooks? If yes, how it is done?
Okay. There are two meanings of the, embedded into the textbook. Firstly, well-experienced teachers on the lesson study, usually known in their region or local, and they usually become textbook authors and or teachers' guidebook authors. And on that context, they try to embed the new ideas. However, on the other hand, editor's side, likely us, or more, sometimes novice teachers, give them the commentaries. And if it is difficult for them, we cannot put it in. And from the government side, to improve the better textbook, the size of textbook become larger and larger. And now, current size are much easier than the past to embed the idea or result of lesson study into the textbook because the size become larger. Originally, Japanese textbook size is very small, no space. Especially for example, proportional number line or 2 lines to explain the multiplication and division of decimal and fractions. Recently, there are papers, educational studies appeared in some years ago. However, from the 70s, from 60s in Japan, on the lesson study we are using. However, in the textbook, it appeared 70s or 80s gradually, and finally, currently, all textbook use the proportional number line to explain multiplication and division of decimal and fraction, and proportion itself.
Thank you very much, Professor Masami. Now, Professor Yuriko will...
Vamos passar para frente? Não precisa explicar?
Não, yes. Sim, precisa. Era isso que eu estava
Rapidinho,
a dizer. Sim.
bem rápido. Então, a pergunta da Marisa era se os resultados da Lesson Study são integrados nos livros didáticos. Ele disse que os autores muito experientes na Lesson Study, que dominam realmente os resultados da Lesson Study, eles se tornam autores de livros didáticos. Mas no Japão, existe o livro oficial, que é o livro didático editado pelo governo. E nesse governo, demora um pouco, mas as melhores ideias eles são incluídas nas diversas edições. No passado, quando ia incluindo as ideias, o livro ia ficando grande, mas eles têm limitações por lei do tamanho do livro didático. Então, agora, eles conseguem, nos livros mais finos, incluir as melhores ideias da Lesson Study de maneira bastante inteligente. E falou que os professores novatos que se aventuram a escrever livros, muitas vezes as editoras não publicam, porque fica somente comentários e não se comparam com os livros dos autores mais consagrados. E agora esqueci a última parte que ele queria dizer, mas é essencialmente isso. Agora, atualmente, ele quis dizer do exemplo da reta numérica proporcional, que existe no Japão desde os anos 60, 70, mas somente nos anos 80 começaram a aparecer nos livros didáticos utilizados nas escolas. Mas, recentemente, eles já estão entendendo, estão apresentando nos livros modernos, dentro do currículo, a ideia de reta numérica proporcional, chamada reta numérica proporcional, e que ensina a multiplicação e divisão de números decimais e fracionários, inclusive o conceito de proporção em 2 linhas ou 3 linhas. E, obviamente, que tem o guia para professor que explica muito bem o conceito por trás. É isso.
Obrigada. Thank you very much, Professor Yuriko. Now I have another one. I think it's the... yes. What ideas can you share with us for creating such rich tasks?
Thank you. Good question. And I just want to back the slide.
Yeah, I think you can share again your slides.
Okay. I just want to confirm that the teaching approach is or method of teaching are preferable. However, the objective itself not the same. And known, for example, so how can we produce the open task or open-ended question or task? How can we, for implementation of the problem-solving approach or teaching through problem solving, what shall we prepare? And for dialectic approach, what shall we prepare? And actually, for the perspective of the preparation, the discussion of the Catherine is the significant. One is that the visible and the central. Visible. How can we visible ideas? And in the case of the problem-solving approach and dialectic approach, for developing the student who learn mathematics by and for themselves, we usually enhance representation. And one of the representation is the proportional number line. And one of the representation of is the area diagram or diagram. Okay. Such things are necessary for the preparation as a part of task sequence. Otherwise, students cannot use what they learned before. When we say what they learned before, we include the ways of thinking and value and attitude and so on. We try to develop the student who pose the question by and for themselves. For that, we prepare the task sequence and so on. And for the dialectic approach, in the case of Japanese textbook, every chapter at minimum 1, normally 2, challenging tasks which include the contradiction, what they already learned. Contradict with what they already learned, they have to revise their own ideas. So from the injection approach, just open the textbook, we can teach it. For the open approach, we change it to the more open question and so on. And for the problem-solving approach, we really need to consider the task sequence to develop student ways of thinking and ways of representations. If students can draw the diagram by and for themselves, they can think. So such a preparation are included. So, for example, already such ideas can be seen on this task sequence. So through the task sequence, we develop the student who learn mathematics by and for themselves. And the major difference of the open approach and problem-solving approach is that open approach just focus on today. Of course, we think how we estimate how student can solve based on what they already learned. But problem-solving approach, teaching through problem solving is impossible without learn the ways of learning itself. If they can draw under the diagram, they can solve this. Then, if they can draw the diagram, they can redraw this diagram also. How can we develop new? Sorry. This is the school. Sorry, this is the school. Okay, and the school building. How shall we renovate the school building? Such a discussion. Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Masami Isoda. I would like to ask something. What is the difference between problem-solving approach and dialectic approach? Is the idea that this sequence have to has the tasks with the contradictions? Is a sequence of tasks, and the tasks has to have the contradictions, or is it?
Yes. The example of the contradiction, how do you say? So I will explain the example of the contradiction. You see the, okay? Example of the contradiction. Actually,
I think I understood. Just to highlight the difference, because it's also the sequence of tasks, but in this sequence you have to introduce the contradiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you say? For example, when we study the multiplication, for memorizing the multiplication table, it is normal in East Asia. For memorization, it is a practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we teacher plan the game and so on for the getting the skill. On the other hand, for producing the multiplication table itself, there is a row second, row 5, row 4, row 3, row 4. It is Japanese order of learning. Row second and row 5 is already learned by count by 2 and count by 5. And row 3 and row 4 is the new challenges to find the answer. For finding the answers, they use the sum diagram and so on, and then they know the answer increase. Answer means that the product of multiplication increase the number of multiplicador every time. Such a thing. It is not the repeated addition, not the same as repeated addition. So, as repeated addition is a base, but it is not a repeated addition, and then they shift to the memorize the multiplication, and then they apply it to the and so on. In that process, there are several contradictions, and the multiplication of decimal is the moment of the contradiction.
With the natural
And
numbers.
where shall we put the decimal point in the column multiplication? That is also the difficult for students, and they have several discussions. Where is the point of the decimals in column multiplication? On column multiplication, it means that vertical form of the multiplication. Where shall we put the decimal point in? So some misconception originated from the addition of the subtraction of addition and subtraction of column method. Normally, the same positions in the case of addition and subtraction on the decimal point. On the other hand, in the case of multiplication, we have to consider the point of the decimals on the product. So such as things produce the opportunity of the dialectic approaches. So through the unit in Japan, problem solving, not we teach through problem solving all classes. Sometimes we have the practice, it is injection, sometimes injection, and sometimes problem solving. And once or twice in the chapter, there are moments the student produce misconception. That timing is the moment of dialectic discussion.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Pessoal, se eu explicar tudo que ele explicou, vai dar um seminário aqui. Eu não vou falar mais nada. É uma oportunidade que talvez em uma outra ocasião eu possa explicar para vocês, mas eu não vou tomar tempo de vocês traduzindo tudo que ele falou, não. Eu acho que...
Ok, nós vamos usar... Nós então usamos o tempo para a última questão e encerramos, está bem, Eurico? Entramos a seguir para encerrar, obrigada.
Me desculpe, porque se eu começo a falar, eu vou explicar. E a explicação vai tomar um pouquinho de tempo.
Professor Masami Isoda, we will for the last question, okay?
Yes.
So from Adriana Richit, thank you very much, Professor Isoda, for introducing us to these perspectives of teaching mathematics currently practiced in Japan. Would you like to know how this new curricular perspective of doing mathematics is introduced in the initial years of schooling?
Oh, how can we implement curriculum reform, you mean?
New curricular, how do you introduce new curricular approach in the first years?
Okay.
Primary, I think.
And the Japanese curriculum reform is a 10 years cycle. Has a 10 years, every 10 years we revise the curriculum. And first, before the curriculum implementation, 3 years ahead, new curriculum already announced. And based on that, the government school teachers begin the lesson study. And new textbook appeared at the moment of the implementation of the curriculum. And the first 3 years are usually do many surveys how well implemented or not. And then during that stage, assessment are usually enhanced. Assessment framework itself is already appeared with the curriculum reform implementation moment. However, how can we improve our teaching and the textbook and so on, such a on that objective assessment usually enhanced. And then later half of 5 years already began the revision of the curriculum. So on that sequence, depending on the teachers, the role is different. Of course, the ordinary many schools are usually try to the lesson study same as curriculum implementation. So the lesson study same as usually related some same written in the new curriculum. On the other hand, in the case of our affiliate schools, they propose the curriculum reform itself. So on that context, at the moment new curriculum coming in, they already begin the new idea for the further innovation and so on. So depending on the teachers, the lesson study content itself different. But so many cases, for curriculum implementation, the same of the curriculum reform itself becomes the lesson study same, national same.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Masami Isoda. I think we do not have time enough to other questions. So once again, thank you for sharing your wonderful knowledge about lesson study in Japan. It's quite interesting and inspiring for us all around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So you are welcome. Thank you very much. So now we will continue in Portuguese for finish the seminar. Professora Eurico, por favor, vamos passar ao encerramento do nosso segundo SILSEM, que foram 3 dias fantásticos de partilha e aprendizagem sobre estudo-aula, mais uma vez, sobre Lesson Study, mais uma vez agradecer à comissão organizadora, professor Dario, professora Regina, professora Adriana, que entrou aqui para manter este projeto incrível no ar. Agradecemos muito a todos e agradecemos, claro, a quem esteve também por trás da cena a trabalhar arduamente durante todos estes dias e a quem contribuiu para que o encontro fosse possível. Da minha parte, mais uma vez, muito, muito, muito obrigada. Professor Eurico, dou-lhe a palavra para encerrar.
Muito obrigada pela oportunidade de poder estar ajudando a tornar esse SILSEM mais produtivo e mais entendível para todos. Eu me sinto muito honrada de poder mediar a presença do professor Isoda. Muito obrigada. Thank you very much, Isoda Sensei. Muito obrigada, Marisa. Obrigada demais para a Adriana, para a Regina, Dario e toda a comissão organizadora que tornou este seminário um sucesso. E estou à disposição para continuar trabalhando na difusão do Lesson Study para melhor compreensão. E muito obrigada. Thank you very much, Professor Isoda, for all these teachings us and so many subjects to study and continue. Para continuar, então, o nosso entendimento, aprofundar o nosso entendimento sobre a Lesson Study. Muito obrigada a todos por estar presente conosco hoje.